Lela Pittenger. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I'm running for the United States Senate, the seat currently held by Kay Bailey Hutchison. At the end of her term, she will have spent 18 years in Washington, D.C., and can you imagine this? She wants to come home.
Yay.
So, it's an open seat. There are 7 of us in this race. Originally, she was going to resign after the governor's race, so we all geared up thinking it was going to be a 5-month race. And when she decided to stay in her seat, it became a 2-year race. So when I was convincing my husband that we should do this, I told him we can do anything for a year. And now whenever I see him, we can do anything for 2 years. I've been doing this for about 21 months now. A lot of people ask me why, so I'm going to give you a couple of things. Who I am, my background, why I joined this race, and then I'd like to open it up for questions, because I don't think you need me to lecture you about what's going on in this country. I'd much rather you just ask what's important to you. Sound like a fair deal? Okay. I'm a native Texan, born and raised, lived here all my life, fully educated in Texas. I went to 3 public high schools in 4 years, so yes, I want to end the Department of Education. When I graduated, I went to Austin College in Sherman, and I majored in English, so I can read the legislation they put in front of me. After I graduated, I worked in higher education and met my husband, and we moved to Dallas, and I worked in the business field while I got my master's degree in alternative dispute resolution to do mediation, negotiation, and conflict management, which I think we're going to need in the Republican Party alone when this race is over. We've got a lot of different people with different ideas in our party that we've got to get on the same page and got to get ready to move quickly before the next election and the possibility that the Democrats could take the House back. So I believe in getting everyone in our party on the same page, on the same team, on the same agenda, and getting it done quickly. After I got my master's, or while I was finishing it, my husband's grandmother had a stroke, and we didn't want her to have to go in a nursing home. We didn't want her to be cared for by strangers, so my husband and I moved into her home with her so that she could age in her own home. When we moved in, the doctor said she's only got about a year. We're on year 5.5 now. When we first moved in, we thought we'd wait to have a baby until her time came so that we wouldn't add any confusion to her life because she has dementia. But we're on 5.5, and I wasn't getting any younger. So my husband and I had a baby. My son is 10 months old. His name is Henry. So yes, I was campaigning at 9 months pregnant. In fact, the day my son was due, I was at the state capitol rallying for a conservative Speaker of the House. So no matter what, my son was going to come out an activist. We're running for the U.S. Senate. I say we because it's a family ordeal. And I know Representative Colkhurst can relate. Your husband and your children do not get paid if you win, but they're going to still have to do all the work to help get you in there. I'm running for several reasons. I was in prayer for my country, and I felt like the Lord called me to step up for this race. And when I asked him why, there were several things I felt like he showed me about the U.S. Senate. 1, out of 100 U.S. senators, we have 60 attorneys. Now, I love our attorneys, Judge, but they are 1% of our population, and they're 60% of the Senate. They're 60% of the House. They're all of the judiciary, and they're all of the executive because both the president and his wife are attorneys. I believe we need a greater variety of backgrounds when it comes to our representation in Washington, D.C. I think we need a greater variety of work experiences and life experiences when it comes to what's happening in Washington, D.C. Since I'm not an attorney, I don't believe that we need to make this a situation where we continue to divide even within our own party. We've got to find our common ground in our party, get everybody on the same page, and get things done quickly and not be embarrassed of our own agenda. Frankly, I'm tired of how often I see Republicans on the national level apologizing for my values. I'm ready to see Republicans who will stand up and charge ahead with the love of Christ, but still be fully committed to what we say we believe in and what we vote them in for. person who has the most variety of background when it comes to job experience and life experience, I think it's important we increase our variety. So 1, I'm not an attorney. 2, out of 100 U.S. senators, we have 17 women. Of those 17 women, only 5 are Republican. Of those 5, only 1 is considered conservative. We have 1 conservative woman in the entire U.S. Senate. Now, since I know the women of Texas feel that way and vote that way and believe that way, I think she needs some company. The women in this country make 80% of the financial decisions, do 80% of the health care work, 80% of the caregiving in this country, and if there's a single-parent household, almost 80% of the time, it's the woman that's the single parent. And we have women on the other side who want these women to be chained to the government on every aspect of their lives. That the government is going to be their spouse, their provider, the father to their children, the educator to their children. I believe we as conservative women need to stand up and say, no, you cannot have my child at 2 years old for your indoctrination. No, you cannot tell my teenager or my child or me that it's better for me to get an abortion than raise my child just because I don't make as much money as you think I should. No, you cannot tell me what to put in my child's body when it comes to medication. If I don't want my child on an antipsychotic drug or any kind of drug, you can't force me by law to do it. Right now, that's happening across our country. Parents are having their children taken away from them by CPS because the parents don't want to put their children on prescription drugs. We need conservative women to stand up and say, you will not be the parent to my children. You are not my spouse. You are not my provider. You're supposed to protect me from enemies, foreign and domestic, but you can stay out of the rest of my life.
Amen.
I heard an amen. Don't be shy. If you agree, say so. Out of 100 U.S. senators, even though you only have to be 30 to be in the Senate, we don't have a single senator under the age of 40. So the generation that's going to inherit the debt mess these guys keep kicking down the road has no voice in what's being done about it. Now, like they say in Washington, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu. I believe my generation is on the menu for this administration and for the United Nations. I think if we keep going down the path we are going down right now, my son will be saying a Pledge of Allegiance to the United Nations and not the United States. And I have a serious problem with that. But we need legislators who believe in our sovereignty, who believe in states' rights, and believe if it's not written explicitly in the Constitution, it doesn't get a dime of taxpayer dollars. So I feel pretty strongly about that. And I want to go forward for my generation because my generation is going to do what's never been done before. We're going to take care of the largest senior population in the history of this country on the largest debt in the history of this country, and no one's preparing us for it. As someone who's already done this, who's been a full-time caregiver for 5.5 years now, I want to lead the way as a conservative Christian pro-life woman and say, I know we can do this. I know the joys, I know the trials, and I know it can be done. Because I believe opposition is going to get their young faces up there who will tell us, oh, we really can't afford them. It would be far more merciful to pull the plug. It'd be far better to quit extending this care. We have a president who told one of his constituents at a town hall meeting, this woman said, my mother needs this surgery and she's 90 years old. And the president said, maybe she's lived long enough. This is the attitude that is under Obamacare. Obamacare, the way it was written, that is not the full novel. That's the introduction to what's to come. They've given Kathleen Sebelius and everyone who follows in her footsteps a blank check on what to do with our health care and our lives. As someone who's been a caregiver and had a lot of exposure to our health care system, I can tell you right now the government has made the problems that it's trying to solve. And I think they need to get out of your health care. I think they need to mind their own business. I don't think they should be telling your family what they can and can't do for your health care. I believe that's between you and God and your family, and if you want to include them, your physician. But not your state rep, not your governor, not your U.S. rep, not your senator, and certainly not your president. So those are a few of the reasons I'm in this race. I have a passion for getting the young generation out and helping them understand what's really happening to them under the socialist system that we are creating. Right now, we have at least 2 generations who have been raised up in a school system that's been taught to ignore the Constitution and to go with a socialist form of government. We have a massive re-education campaign we have to do as conservatives. But we've got to be ready to do it with the love of Christ. When I was listening to Representative Kolkhorst, she was talking about how they put Republicans against Republicans. They pit people against each other. In the book of Psalms, it says in Scripture, 6 things the Lord hates. 7 are an abomination to him. Do you know what that 7th thing was, that abomination? He who stirs up dissension amongst the brethren. We have plenty of people in our party that are doing everything they can to divide us, separate us, and label us. We've got enough doing it outside of our party, but we've got a lot doing it inside. And we get to decide whether or not we're going to buy into the dissension, to the anger, to the clawing, to the scratching that the enemy wants us to do. I'm not running against anyone in this race. I'm running as an option for the people of Texas. These people are not my opposition. They're good men who have each done good things and had different experiences. So I'm not here to tell you to dislike anyone in favor of me. While I would love your vote, I want you to do it out of an informed vote, not out of ignorance. So I'm going to do for you what no other candidate will do. I'm going to tell you who all's in this race. Now, I'm sure Representative, she's heard from probably consultants like I have who said, never tell them who else is in the race. You're just giving your opposition media time. I don't agree with that, because if they will keep you in ignorance when they're running the race, what will they keep in the dark while they're in office? So if you want to write down who's in there, I'm going to tell you, but here they are. 1, Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst. A lot of you should be familiar with who he is. He's been in for a little while. Former CIA, ex-military, former State Department, owned an energy company, and it's recently come out that he's worth about $200 million. So the thing for him is he can really write his campaign out of his own bank account. So he's very blessed. 2, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a former Solicitor General for the state of Texas. So when our wonderful Attorney General Greg Abbott wants to sue the federal government, which seems to be every day, he would have to send attorneys to represent us on the federal level, and Ted Cruz was one of them. He was our Solicitor General. He would help represent Texas in these cases, and he's argued before the Supreme Court a number of times. Great attorney. 3, Tom Leppert. Tom Leppert is a businessman. He's done international business. He's been an American businessman, and he's the former mayor of Dallas. His whole push is focusing on jobs. 4, Glenn Addison. Glenn with 2 N's and Addison with 2 D's. Glenn is a businessman who owns funeral homes in the Magnolia area near Houston. Glenn's thing is to be a citizen legislator, and he says he's going to offer his crematory for the U.S. tax code. I tell him I'm happy to help shovel it in. Lift with your legs, not your back, toss it in. Also a good man. Next we have Andrew Castanuela. Cass is former military. He retired from the military, and now he works for the state of Texas as a drug and alcohol counselor. Very nice man. Next we have Kurt with a C, Cleaver with a C. Kurt's a businessman that's come out of the hotel management industry. Now what you may notice is I am the only lady in the race. And that's true on both sides. We have 3 Democrats currently in the race. The most important one, the one who's been really the chosen one, does anyone know who it is?
Why?
It's going to be really important we know this time.
Why?
Because they've gotten a wonderful candidate. Rick Sanchez. Rick Sanchez retired from the U.S. Army. He's one of the gentlemen who led us into Iraq and helped lead the way on catching Saddam Hussein. He's a native Texan. He's Hispanic. He's well-spoken. He presents himself well. He comes across as a really nice man. On his website, it talks about him remembering what it's like to grow up in the welfare lines. He is a wonderful picture of big government working, because big government took care of his family when he was little, and then he spent his entire career in the government through the U.S. military. He's going to be able to look at a lot of people in this state who are hurting financially and tell them, I know exactly what you're going through. I've been there, my family's been there, and here is how the government can solve that problem. And he'll be able to testify to it because that was his life. That's his background. The state of Texas could very possibly become a victim of its own success. Because we've done so well over the last few years, people who voted bad policies in their states have come to Texas because they couldn't find a job or a home anymore, and this is the place where they could find it. And they brought their voting values with them. Texas is starting to turn purple. Lois is clicking her teeth at me. I know, I'm not trying to ruin your Christmas, I'm really not. But it's where we are. We have never had such a time for evangelism in the Republican Party as we've had now. People are fleeing the burning building called the Democratic Party because they realize the party left them. And they want to go where they'll find conservative values like they grew up with and they believe and they're voting with. And this is our opportunity to truly win them over with the right ideas and ideas that truly work and truly set people free. But we're going to have to get aggressive about it. We're not going to be able to just talk to people that we agree with anymore. We're going to have to start trying to win people over. Otherwise, we could have Democrats in power in the state of Texas in the next 10 years. Am I wrong? No. I love when someone says no. I believe we need to give the people of Texas candidates who are living like they are, who are going through the same things they are, who understand what it's like to be unemployed in this economy, who knows what it's like not to have health insurance but still need to take care of their family. We need to put candidates out on the road who will be able to relate to what people are going through and talk about how the government has made it worse, not solved the problem, and how we as people have better ideas than our government. So I'm running as someone who's living like everyone else and wants to make a difference for my generation and for all those fabulous conservative women out there. So I thank you for your time, and I'll stay as late as you want to answer questions, but thank you very much for coming out tonight.